and we're going to start talking about Google Sites. So to get started with Google Sites, Google is a great place to start. So if you just go to a Google home screen, then what you can do is you have a couple of options. You can click over on your waffle, and we talk about things in Google terms. We talk a lot about food. I think Google people are hungry when they develop their stuff. So anyway, that's called a grid view, but you can look at the waffle if you'd like, or grid view. And you'll notice here in my grid view, or my waffle, I have Google Sites right here, but you may not have Google Sites here. This is really your mostly used applications in Google, and you may have to scroll down a bit in your waffle to see Google Sites. And if you don't see it there, it's still okay, because you may not have ever used it and may not show up on your waffle at all. So if you don't see it at all, it's super simple to get to Google Sites. You simply go up to your Omnibox. That's what this doodad up here is called. A lot of you might call that, I don't know what you call it, but it's called an Omnibox. So you go up here to the Omnibox, and you type in sites.google.com and sites.google.com. So Google makes everything pretty simple to get to. Everything is something.google.com. It's calendar.google.com.
Chris,
yes, ma'am.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a minute.
Yes.
Is there any way to make your screen larger?
Sure.
I don't know if you can. Okay, great. People are having a little fun.
So I will, when it comes time to zoom in, I will zoom in, and yes.
Okay.
But right now, sites.google.com up in the Omnibox, or you can click again from your waffle to go to Sites, Google Sites. So go ahead and click Enter. And what's going to show is you're going to see old Google Sites show up first if you have already developed an old Google Sites. And I have a number of sites in my old Google Sites. But what we really want you to go down to here is where it says New Google Sites, okay? So I want you to go ahead and click where it says New Google Sites, please. And that's where we want to go. All right, and you'll see I have quite a few Google Sites. Some of them are just tests, and I should probably go through and clean them up a little bit, and others are actual sites. So what I want you to, I'm going to show you what Google Sites can look like by the time you're done. So for example, this site that we put up on the Palmdale website, the Learning at Home site, is actually a Google site. And it can look something like this when you're done with a Google site. So there are a lot of things that you can add to it. And it can look fairly professional, okay? Here's another example of what a Google site can look like. And this one I kept as a portfolio. And so you can use Google Sites as portfolios as well. So this is a portfolio of some of my work for a class that I took. And here's the links are built in here. So you can go into different sections and see what I have posted in each of those sections as a portfolio. So that's another example of a Google site, okay? Let's try one more. So I'm back at Google Sites, and you may not see anything here because you might not have created a site yet, correct? And that's no problem. So we can get started. Before we go on, Jerry, are there any questions so far?
So far, one of the questions is, can we have your slide deck at the end?
Well, there is.
So I can.
Yeah, there really isn't a slide deck. I just showed those first two slides, but I can share this two slides. Actually, we're going to be sharing those more frequently during the Zoom meetings that you're going to have tomorrow as well. So
yeah, and that was one of the questions as well. And details about Zoom and Meet will be covered in the webinars tomorrow. So we kind of have a day full of Zoom and Meet details. That'll be a great time for those questions.
So I'm going to just zoom out a little very quickly. Okay, apologize. All right. Okay. Okay, Jerry, there we go. I apologize, but I was looking for my plus. I'm like, where's my plus sign to start my new site? It was underneath this. It was underneath all your people. There you go. So on the bottom right, if you want to start a new site, you'll see a plus sign. And let me see if I can zoom into that a little bit so you can see. There's a big plus sign. Hopefully it's not covered like mine was. So go ahead and click on that plus sign and we'll get started with a new site. There you go. So Google's going to give me some default items. I'm going to see if I can put this up on my top. So there you go. So Google gives me some default items here. It automatically gives you a banner. We call this a banner, by the way. In web terms, this is a banner. So your banner goes
Excuse me, Chris, I'm so sorry.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
went to try and follow you with creating a site, or I guess it's called a site, but it asked me if I want to use old or classic Google site or new.
New,
Google
please.
site.
Choose
Okay.
new. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're following along, please choose new Google Sites. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to quickly make sure we got a couple people who are coming in. So I'm going to admit them. There you go. So welcome into the session. I got another one who just wanted to pop in. Okay. Oh my goodness. We got some latecomers, and that's okay. We'll join them into the session. All right. So once you click the plus sign, you will create a new Google site, and it gives you sort of a standard banner right here. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the site name. And so you can name this site if you're a teacher and you want to start creating a Google site for your parents and your students to come and see. So you might be asking, why would I want to do a Google site anyway? Well, in this time, you are going to try to be communicating with parents from a distance, right? And so if you're communicating with parents from a distance, a Google site might be a really good way for you to give them information that they can go to. So you can give them the URL and they can click on that link and they can go and get more information about your class. So I'm going to show you, maybe I'm going to call this click in here, Mrs. Jones, and I'm going to call it grade 4. That's a nice middle grade. And there you go. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Mrs. Jones, grade 4. And then you can add your title here, and your title can be the same as your site name. Now, keep in mind, there's something you'll need to know. Your site name, in a moment, I'll show you, it's going to create a URL for you. So the more information you put up here, the longer that URL is going to be. It's going to get rid of periods and some other stuff. But it will become your URL, okay? So your title page is going to be called, Mrs. Jones's room, okay? Or whatever you want to name your online space. Remember, this is a professional site that you're going to be sharing with parents and students. And if you're sharing a professional site with folks, then it's a good idea to keep that professional, right? Okay, so here on the left, and when I hover in that box, in that banner box, as soon as I get out of that banner box with my mouse, with my cursor, it goes away. But when I go back up, you'll see this white box appears and it says change image. And there's a little down arrow next to the change image. And if I click the down arrow, I can either upload an image from, maybe I've already created one on my homepage or on my desktop, or you want to go to select image. Now, Google has some preloaded ones here, and these are very good because they're nice and sort of standard and plain, and they're not too distracting. And that's a good thing because you don't want a banner that has a lot of colors or a lot of texture in it, because that would be distracting from the words in the banner. You want to keep it fairly simple. So Google has preloaded some really simple ones, and I'm gonna go really simple on this one and select. So there you go. Now you'll see over here it says adjusting for readability. And if you don't like that sort of grayed out background, if you like that brighter background, you can remove the readability. But look what happens then, it's harder to see the words. Okay, so what you can click it again and it'll make it more grayed out so that you can see the words again. If you don't like that picture, again, you can click here where it says change image and you can select another one. You have all of these choices. You can go to search for one, and it will only search for copyright free ones from here. You can search the Google Life series for one. You can go to your Google albums to find pictures. So if you find something in there that you really like, that you think, well, that's not going to work because it's the wrong, it's tall, it needs to be wide, it would only capture a part of that. Let's see how it works. I'm just going to see what part of that it puts in there. There you go. It only puts part of it in there. So maybe you like that, and that's fine. So I'm going to leave that because it's not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and gray that back out so the words pop a little bit more. All right, next to change image, you're going to see header type. And so I want you to click there. And you get, if you choose cover, what will happen is your first page in your Google site, that will be, the picture will be the entire cover. You won't really be able to put any text on that page, or very little text on that page. So very quickly, I'm going to admit a couple more participants here. And I'll remember to disable my waiting room next time. So for those of you who've been here from the beginning, you can see how waiting room works. And basically what that means, if you're doing a Zoom with your students and you put a waiting room on, then it lets you choose who gets to come into the session. One of the reasons that's really good is because maybe you don't want kids from outside of your classroom to join the session. And sometimes kids they're pretty clever. They'll learn how to share your links into Zoom meetings, and they'll share it with their other friends. And then suddenly their other friends are popping into your Zoom meeting. So a waiting room can be pretty beneficial for you if you're going to do a Zoom meeting. I apologize that I have to keep bringing it up, though, to admit people in. So for those of you who just came in, welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, Jerry.
We have a quick question, and that's about Google Translate within Google Sites.
So Google Translate, that's a great question. And by the way, it automatically works. Google has that built into Google Sites. So as soon as you publish your site, and I'll show you how to do that in a bit, it will do an automatic translation. It will be on the user's end. You may not see it on your end, but when the user comes in to use your site, a little box should appear that says translate, and they'll be able to choose the language they want to translate your site into. Okay?
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great tool. All right, so here we have a cover. Here we have a large banner, and I'll show you what that looks like. It just makes it bigger.
Chris, will Google Translate work also like in Google Classroom and all of our Google stuff?
Meaning what?
If we post something in our Google Classroom, can the parents on the other side, can they translate that?
No, Google Classroom does not do an auto translation.
Okay, thank you.
Sites does. Okay, all right. So just to make that clear, and you can do title only. So if you don't want a picture at all, you can just choose a title, and that will make it fairly simple. I'm going to leave this on banner because I think that's kind of the standard way a website looks. Usually you have a banner at the top, and here I can go back to my text, and it automatically comes in as title, but I can always move this to the left or to the right if you don't want it to be centered, or if you want it to be stretched a little more. You can pull these little dots out. You can make it stack here if you'd like it to be stacked in a certain space. So these little dots will help you to kind of adjust the size and the look of your text. Okay, so I'm going to leave this across as a banner. Okay, all right. So Jerry, I'm hoping that you're monitoring the chat down there, and if you need any help, let me know in the chat. But I think you've got it figured out. And so the next thing I'm going to do, and by the way, again, if you have a question, or please put it into the chat. Jerry's monitoring the chat, and she can answer your questions as we go along. And I'll stop periodically, and I'll ask for questions. Okay. So let's go ahead and move forward, because now it's time for me to start building out my web page. What do I want to put on it? And by the way, 90% of a website is planning. Like, you need to get in there and you need to decide what you want in that space and how you want it to look. So if you need to draw it on a piece of paper first, or however that works for you, then please do that. Because if you get into this space and you're trying to figure it out while you're here, sometimes it's really hard to do that virtually. Sometimes it's easier to do that on paper first to kind of figure it out. So if I decide, you can see just like a PowerPoint, I have some layouts here, some standard layouts. If I'd like to do a picture with some text next to it, This is a good choice. If I'd like to do 2 pictures with 2 text boxes, this is what it will look like. And if I don't want this, by the way, if I put something in a layout and I didn't want it, over to the left, you'll see a trash can. So if you want to delete this section, you just hover to the left and you'll see a little trash can and you can delete, and that takes it out. So you can choose a layout, or if you don't want a layout at all and you just want to put text, you can just simply insert a text box, and it brings up a text box, and you can start writing text, and that's all it will do is just add text into this section. Now, a lot of the questions that I get when people start typing, I'm just going to put some nonsense in here, is, oh, can I change the color of that, or can I change the look of that? And the answer is not really. And here's why. Google gives you themes, or they've started you with a theme. And so the only way to really change the look of the text is where it says normal text. You can only choose sizes. You can choose small, subheading, heading, and title, and normal. Those are really your only choices. You don't have, notice you don't have any text box color options here. There are no colors. So it gives you a standard option. I'm going to tell you why that's a good thing. If any of you have been to a website, and you probably haven't been recently, but several years ago it was still kind of a thing where somebody would make a bright yellow background and put bright blue text on the top of it, you'll know that that is not very visually appealing. It's very difficult to read, and it's hard on the eyes. So what Google has done is they have gotten certain themes and they've put them together, and they limit you to themes. So I'm going to show you how to change your theme. And the way to do that is over here on the right where, and I'll go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. You'll see where it says Insert, Pages, and Themes. So I'm going to click on Themes. And you'll see on this particular theme that I have selected, which is the simple theme, I only have a choice of certain colors, or I can choose a different color from the paint can here. And I only have a choice of certain font styles, light, classic, and heavy. So if I chose heavy, for example, it would see how it changes my text here. If I choose classic, it's going to make it what we call a serif font. I'm going to teach you about serif and sans serif fonts today. This is a serif font, and a serif font means that it has the little feet on the bottom. And so you'll see serif fonts in newspapers and magazines. They're high readability fonts if you have a lot of text. But if you don't have a lot of text, you can use a sans serif font, which is more like this one. It does not have the little feet on the bottom. That's a sans serif font. So I'm going to go back to the heavy because I think it shows up maybe a little bit more. And I can change my theme color. Maybe I like the green better, and you won't see any changes yet, but it'll show up a little bit later when I show you some other things. Or maybe you like the purple or the black. Mine was defaulting to this blue color, or kind of a blue-gray color. So maybe I'm going to go with black because I'm going to make this a simple black and white page. And that's all you can do. Or you can choose a new theme. And notice how my font changes when I choose these themes, or how the style changes when I choose these new themes. And you can go down the list to the right, and you can look at the themes, and that's pretty much all you get for themes, okay? So you have 6 or 7 basic themes, and that's it. And again, the most choice you'll get out of that is to change the color, and to kind of change the font style a little bit, okay? So again, Google gives you a limited choice, but I also think that that's a good limited choice, because otherwise you might spend a lot of your time thinking about or designing your website, and you really shouldn't spend that much time designing it. They've already got these really nice designs for you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and see if we got anybody else to admit. We got a few more folks coming into our session here. So welcome to our new folks in our session. And at this point, I'll take questions. If you would try to raise your hand, and let me see if I can see raised hands in here. Go manage my participants. If you'll raise your hand, if you have a question, this would be a good time to ask a question. All right, Holly, please speak.
Can Can you please spell that word you were saying? Something font. A what font?
Serif, S-E-R-I-F.
Serif font.
Serif, yeah,
Thank you.
S with like a snake, serif, S-E-R-I-F. It's called a serif. And then sans serif is S-A-N-S, sans, of course, in French, meaning not. So
Okay.
sans serif.
Thank
So
you.
those are the two kinds of font styles. Hey, Veronica, do you have a question? You're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Kathleen does.
All right. Kathleen, go ahead and pop in.
I'm very sorry, but my chat will show when I make a message on chat in this format right now. All it gives me is two options: to send it to you and send it to the group. But I can't send it. Is there something I'm not doing right?
Oh, you know, a little bit of a technical difficulty. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
Kathleen,
really
try putting your cursor in like you're going to type some more, and now hit enter. You could have some connectivity issues, or your computer could be a little slow. So
Got it. Okay.
like type a little more and hit enter. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I did try that. I'll try it again. Thank you. The other question is, I know we're spending quite a lot of time on this display of the banner, but I have no idea how to actually use this, and I'm wondering if we're going to get into that.
yes. In fact, that's what we're going to do right now. So let's
Okay.
do that. So
Thank you so much.
Thanks for bringing it up. All right. So here we go. We are going to go ahead and start building out our website. And so I just wanted you to know that there were some choices here. To do that, we're going to go back over here to the right of your screen and we're going to click Insert. Okay. So you're going to want to be on this tab that says Insert. All right. So click on Insert. And remember, we started with layouts. So I'm going to choose a layout, which is a standard picture and text. And so my text might say, welcome to my classroom. And this is the space where I will put all the content. So you can put some more text in here, whatever makes sense to you to describe or to give information to your users. I'm going to go back up here. By the way, there's this random piece of text that I wrote, and I don't like it here. So to get rid of it, as soon as I hover over it, that little trash can appears, and I'm going to click delete, and that will get rid of that text. Okay. So back here, you'll see there's a plus sign right in the middle. That means what picture do you want to put in there? So Google does a pretty good job of saying, do you want to upload a picture from your computer? Do you want to select an image that they already have for you? Do you want to go to your Google Drive to find a picture? Do you want to go to YouTube to find a picture or to find a video? Maybe you want an introductory video. Maybe you've already made a video of yourself and maybe it's in your Google Drive and you can put that right in this space. You can insert a calendar and you can insert a map. Well, we're not going anywhere, but maybe a calendar would be a good choice here. Maybe I'd like to put my calendar in here so my students could see it when they first come into my classroom because, and I'm going to go ahead and insert my calendar here. So notice I have a lot of calendars that I'm connected to, and I'm going to choose my calendar, not somebody else's calendar, and I'm going to click Insert. And watch what it does. It makes a really nice calendar view here, but I don't like that it's an agenda view. Maybe I want mine to be in week view. So I can, let's see if I can click in here and edit this. And there you go. And my view mode is defaulting, and that was the gear icon, by the way. So click on the gear icon and I can show the title, the date, the navigation buttons. And down at the bottom, it's defaulting to agenda view, and I'm going to choose week. And it will now show my calendar in the week view. And then when I click done, there you go. My calendar is now in week view. Now, this is really great because I can size this to be a little bit bigger. Maybe I want it to be a little taller. Maybe I want it to be a little wider. All those little buttons around the outside of the picture, if I click on any of those buttons, it will allow me to size this. So I will click and drag, and it will allow me to size my calendar a little bit. So maybe when they first come in, they can see a little bit more of my calendar. There you go. And so you can size that to be whatever size you want. Now, calendar embedded into your Google site is really powerful, because if you're guiding your parents and your students to come into your Google site to see the information, maybe you're posting homework in your calendar and you want parents to see when the homework is due. They can simply come to your Google website, and the very first thing they're going to see is your calendar, and it will have the homework assignments posted. Now, if you need more information about how to do that, we'll do a pop-up session next week on Google Calendar. So if you need more information about how to build out your Google Calendar and add content there, again, we'll do a pop-up session on that next week. Okay, I'm going to see if we have any waiting participants. We do not. All right, so here you go. You have now added, hopefully, you may be doing yours a little bit different than mine, and that's fine, but maybe a picture, and in this case, I added a calendar and I added some text. Now, over to the left, what you might see, or what you will see when you are clicked in this section, and you'll know you have it highlighted because there'll be a blue line around it, okay, a blue line, or maybe yours is gray, but whatever, there's a line around this section. Over to the left, you're going to see some choices. I have a choice to duplicate this section, to duplicate it. So if I click here, it'll copy it and make another one. So maybe I want that twice on my screen for a reason. And above that, I have a little paint palette. And if I click on the paint palette, I don't get too many choices again. So I can only choose regular, emphasis 1, which will make it a gray kind of a background. I will get emphasis 2, which will make it the color background. And remember, the color I chose goes back to the theme I chose. If I don't like that color, maybe I want it this blue color or this pink color or this green color. So you have some choices. And of course, remember, you have the paint can, so you can always choose some other color from in here. Maybe you want that burgundy-ish color instead. Okay? So you can choose some of your colors as well. That's really the only choice you get with the paint tool is the emphasis, or you can have an image background. So if you want another image to sit behind that, you can. I don't recommend it, because when you start putting too many images on your site, it becomes visually unappealing. It's very difficult to read your text. So I would say stick with these top 3, and that's the best choice that you can make. All right, so now we've inserted some text with a layout. I'm going to show you how to insert some content directly from your Google Drive. And that's really nice because it's right here. It's under the Insert tab, and over here to the right, you see Drive. And so you're going to click on Drive. Well, very simply, click on Drive. And here's the best part. Your drive will show, as well as drives that are shared. So if you have any shared drives, you'll see those, or items that are shared with you from other people. So if somebody has shared a document with you, then you can see that. And if you scroll to the right a little bit, you'll see it'll take you to your recent documents, the things you've looked at recently, starred. So if you've put a star on any of your documents in your Google Drive, it will find those very quickly. And it will also, if you have other computers connected, it'll find those as well. So for example, maybe I want to insert a presentation that I made. So it's very simple to do. Again, Google Drive, and I've made a Google slideshow, and I can click on the slideshow I want to insert, and I click Insert. And there you go. It will insert my slideshow directly into this Google website. Now, let me tell you what's brilliant about this. What is incredibly brilliant about this is that from this point forward, once you insert this into your website, you never have to do anything to where this is again on the website. If you need to edit the slideshow, let's say some of the information on the original slides were changed, maybe the dates need to be changed, you would go back to your Google Drive and you would edit the original slideshow, and it will show up automatically on this website from this point forward. So you don't need to come back to your website and install it or reinsert it or take it out and do it again, you can just leave this in here and you can go back to your Google Drive and edit the original slideshow and it will automatically edit. So I think that's an incredible thing. Just checking here. And if you want to size this, again, if you want this, we've got those buttons around the corners and I can make it fill the screen or at least go across the middle. So it comes from left to right. So if somebody's viewing my website, they'll see it in the center of the page. All right. So at this moment, I have a couple of things on my page. And by the way, this is one page, and I'll show you in a moment how to insert more pages. So I have a couple of things. Perhaps I want a divider between these two sections. So this is the second section. This is the first section. Over here on the right, you're going to see more tools down toward the bottom, and one of those choices is a divider. And so I'm going to click divider, and it put it down here, and I can move it by just clicking on it and dragging it, and it will drag up here. And it doesn't show up very well in this format because I've got this burgundy background. So let me see if I can drag it down a little bit. No, it's a very light colored divider, but it will divide sections on your screen. It's more effective if you have no background, and then you'll see the divider more clearly. Now, you don't have many choices. You don't really get to recolor those or do anything like that because, again, that's all determined by the theme you have chosen. All right. As we scroll down, take a look. You have other things you can add into your site. You can add an image carousel. What will happen is the images will just sort of flow by as people are viewing your site. You can add buttons to link out to other pages or to other websites. You can insert YouTube videos here. You can insert a calendar or a map or a Google Doc or slides or sheets or forms or charts. So there are lots of things that you can insert into your page, okay? All right, before I move on and show you about inserting pages, I'm going to take a break and we will ask our participants. If you have questions, this is a good place to ask a question. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward.
Excuse me.
Oh, yep, Holly, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, when will this be available as a recorded session?
It will be available tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, because I really like it.
Okay, excellent. All right, thanks for asking. All right, so by the way, if you're going to any of the sessions this week, we are uploading them every night and they are available the next day as a recording. So you can go back and watch them the next day as a recording. All right, Holly, you have a question?
Well, I guess I could go back and watch it later, but you went really fast on that update thing when you inserted this PowerPoint slideshow, and when you inserted the calendar, you said something like it will automatically update.
Yes.
So I just wanted to understand that better because I know you're going quick because you have a lot to cover. I could watch it later if you want me to.
And we can also have a discussion. So if you need us, I'll hop on to a Zoom meeting with a few of you later if you want, and we can have a pop-up discussion as well. So yes, things do update automatically, meaning what that means is that if I maintain my regular Google Calendar, it will, all the stuff I add to a regular Google Calendar will just show up automatically here. So again, I don't need to go to, once I design this website, I can kind of leave it alone and just update the things I'm inserting into the website. It's really kind of a nice thing to do. All right, Michael, you have a question. Michael, you have your hand up. Do you need to ask a question? You can unmute.
I also want to point out that we do have this class again at 10 o'clock. So that if you really dig into this and you don't need Zern or some of the other webinars, that join us at 10 and we'll do it again. Only it'll be me this time, so it'll be a slightly different. I'm less of a design expert. I love Chris's points on design are wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry.
So that,
That's a
take
great
note.
point. Jerry will be instructing this class at 10 o'clock. So if you want to come to it again, you're always welcome to come to a second round. So excellent. So let's go ahead and move forward a little bit. And I'm going to click on pages because I want to insert a new page. So remember, right now we have a web page. We don't really have a website. We have a web page. A website really kind of intimates that you have more than one page. So right now we have a web page. So if we want to build out a website, we're going to add pages. And right now my home page is the only page I have. By the way, your first page that you make is called home. And the reason it's called home is because as you navigate a website, you will go through different portions of a website. But if you ever get confused and you're not sure where to go next, you can always go to the home page. And the home page is the place where you'll branch off to go to other portions of the site. So we will leave the home site always called home. But if we want to add another page to our website, let's say I'm making a page for different content areas, or maybe if I'm a middle school teacher, maybe I have different web pages for different periods of my class. So what I'm going to do is click the plus sign down at the bottom and choose new page. And it will open up a box that says new page. And I will name this, and perhaps I want to do a math portion of my website. So this is going to be called the math resource page. And I'm going to click done. And now I have created a second page to my website. And so you'll see over here on the right, I have home and I have math resource page. Now home should always remain top of the list. But if you make other pages in your website, you can always rearrange them, and maybe you want the math resource page to be fourth instead of second, and you can always click and drag those. You can change their order at any time later on. When I hover over math resource page, you'll see 3 dots appear. And when I click those 3 dots, I have some options. I can duplicate the page. I can change the properties of the page, add a sub-page, which means there will be a link only from the math resource page to another sub-page. Hide it from navigation, which means it's invisible to your viewers, only you get to see it, and delete. And so if I made one by accident, I can always delete it, no problem. So you do have some options, but you won't see that until you hover over the page name. You won't see that 3-dot option. Okay, so now that I have a math resource page, perhaps all I want to put on this page are some links to YouTube videos. Maybe I have some really cool math YouTube videos that I want my kids, or Khan Academy videos. So I can actually click YouTube and search for Khan Academy. It's best if you look these up first so that you know what you're looking for. And I'm doing this cold, so I'm going to, let's see, how Khan Academy is here. Oh, here we go. Subtracting fractions, pre-algebra, Khan Academy. Okay, so that looks very math-like. And I'm going to go ahead and insert that. So this is pretty great because you have the whole world of YouTube at your fingertips, and you can start putting those items together for your students. What's even better about this than sending your kids out to YouTube to go watch a YouTube video is that when you send them to YouTube, they'll see all of the ads and they'll see all of the comments. But if you put those YouTube videos on your website, they won't see ads and they won't see comments. So it's a nice way for you to sort of collate all of the information for your students. You're bringing it to one location for them and not forcing them out to YouTube. You can also, again, same thing. You can insert a doc, you can insert a slide, you can insert sheets, you can go to your Google Drive and insert anything from your Google Drive on to this website. Okay, so now I have 2 pages for my website, and I'm going to go back to pages, and I'm going to insert another page. And perhaps I'm going to call this one Language Arts. And now you can see what I was talking about at the beginning, that planning this out before you start is a good idea. Because if you don't know how you want to organize your site, then you're going to get in here and you're going to try to build it. And then you're going to start asking yourself, should I make a math page? Should I make a language arts page? Or should I just have one page and put everything on that page? Is it harder to navigate? Is it easier to navigate? So, and very quickly before I click off of here, you'll see you can choose a custom path here, but we're not going to do custom paths. That's definitely for the advanced user.
So, Chris, we also had a question too about inserting links, and perhaps you were going to get to that, and we're jumping ahead.
And so I'm going to quickly admit a couple of folks to our meeting. So yes, we can, we'll do that on this page. Great question. So again, over here to my right, I can reorder by clicking and dragging. Maybe I want my language arts to be the second page. And so I'm going to click and drag it and drop it so that it is up above the math resource page. You'll notice what it did was it changed it up here on my navigation bar as well. So this will be your, it automatically creates your navigation depending on what theme you have chosen. So in some themes, it will put it across the top. In some themes, it'll put it across the left. And in others, it will collapse it and you'll have a down arrow and you'll have to choose from the down arrow. Okay? So that's all part of the what Google sort of does automatically. So that's a great question. So let's go ahead and insert a link. And I'm going to go back to my insert. And one of my choices, so you say, wait, how do I make a link out to a website or to another place? Well, you click text box and you add some text and you say, maybe I want my students to go to the Palmdale School District website for those reading resources, okay? And so what you can do is highlight the text that you've written in here and click on the link icon when the box shows up here. And by the way, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because I want people to really notice this. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and notice it changes the color. You have no control over that color. Again, that's part of the theme, and it changed the font style as well. Again, no control. If you don't like those colors, then go change the theme. So I'm going to highlight the text, and I'm going to click on Insert Link. And here it's going to ask, well, what link do you want it to go to? And so here I would type in http:// it's better if you go and copy and paste a link. So you go to a website and find a link and paste it. But I'm just going to go ahead and do Palmdale, because I know this one off the top of my head, sd.org. And I'm going to click Apply. And there you go. You will know it's a link because look what happens. It puts an underline underneath it. Do you see the underline? And as soon as you see the underline, you'll know it's linked. All right, so now I have a website that has a few pages. If you want to navigate back and forth to your pages, like you say, oh, I want to go back to my home page and I want to edit my home page, you can either click here on Pages and choose the home page, or you can use your navigation tools up at the top of your page. So I can click on Math here, and I can click on Language Arts here, and I can click on Home here, and it will take me back to those pages. Now, if you want to see what your viewer is going to see, so you've been taking a few minutes and you've been designing your website, but you don't know what it's going to look like for somebody on the other side. Up here in your tools, you get a few tools in the top. You'll see there's an undo, there's a redo, and then to the next to that, there's a preview. And so I'm going to click on preview. And what that does is it takes me out of editing mode and it takes me into the preview mode. And I know I'm in preview mode because down here on the right, I see the little preview button. To get out of preview, I have to click the X. So now I can test my site. I can see, oh, does this really work? Can I go through the slides like I wanted to? Will they go left? Will they go right? Oh, look at that. It really does go through the slideshow. Isn't that nice? And if my students want to watch the video, they can click the link or the button right here to watch the video. Hey, this slideshow business is pretty cool because I can make a lot of slideshows and I can just embed them in my website. look at my calendar. Oh, that looks pretty nice. Can I go to the next week on my calendar? Yes, I can. Can I go to the month view on my calendar? Yes, I can. Or can I skip to another month? Yes, I can. So you can take a look at calendars. All right, very nice. So this is all interactive now, and I'm seeing what my viewer will see. Down at the bottom on the preview, you'll see there are 3 different views. There's one for phone, one for tablet, and one for computer. So if you want to see what it's going to look like if people view your site on a phone, click on the phone icon. And you will see this is what my site looks like from a phone. All right, so you'll see how it collapsed the view. You will see this is what my site looks like on a standard tablet. And then back to full computer screen view. Very nice. Does my navigation work? Can I click on language arts and will it go here? Yes, it does. Does my link work? Look, when I hover over it, do you see how it turns into a hand? That means the link is active. If I click on this, it will take me to the Palmdale website. Okay. So your navigation works. Excellent. All of these things are working. So this is the way you test it. You know, you can test it to see, is this going to play?
Welcome to the presentation on adding and subtracting sections. Let's get started. Let's start with what I...
All right, so Con is going to be doing a lesson with us. Excellent, thank you, Con. All right, so yes, all of these things are working. So I'm going to click the X to get out of the preview mode and get back to my editing mode. So this is what you need to understand on a website. There's a preview mode and there's an editing mode. So if you get into that preview mode, you can't click and edit anything. You are only viewing it as an outside person would view it. So you have to get out of this mode to edit your website again. There's one last step for you to do, and you need to publish your site. So right now, nobody can see your website. Only you can see your website. So if you want the world to see your website, you have to publish it. And when I say the world, by the way, when you publish a website, it is really out there for the world. So keep that in your mind as you're developing content for your website. You can't restrict a website to only be viewed by a few people. A website is really for everyone in the world to see. So as soon as I click the publish button, it will publish my site. And I'm going to go ahead and do that because I want you to see what happens. So remember earlier when I said when you name your site up here, that this is what your web address is going to be? And look what it did. It put hyphens in between where all my spaces were. And I might think, oh, hyphens are going to be really hard for people to do to put in. That's not going to be good because maybe if I'm on a cell phone and I'm trying to navigate to a site, maybe I don't want hyphens. Maybe I want to collapse and I don't want hyphens in. And look what happens when I take that out and it says, hey, that's a great address, but guess what? It's already taken because I'm not the first Mrs. Jones who's a grade 4 person who's trying to make a website, right? So it says, sorry, that's already taken. So I can try to customize this and say maybe it's 4th grade instead, and I guarantee you that one's probably taken too. Oh, look, it's not. I'm pretty excited about that. But it makes it pretty long. You know, you start looking at that and people are going to have to type all of this in. Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to show you how to shorten it all anyway because, you know, all of this, it would have to be sites.google.com/palmdalesd.org/Mrs. Jones 4th grade. That's just too long. Nobody's going to remember how to type that. Not your students, not your parents. So I'm going to show you in just a moment how to shorten all this so that you don't have to send your parents that really long link. Okay?
And we had a quick question too about renaming. I don't know if you can rename your site after you published it.
Yes,
Put it out there.
you can rename after you publish, but it's not recommended. So this part of the site will not rename, because once you publish, it's out there for the world to see. And if you rename it, then somebody may have gone to it and then you rename it and it's gone, right? So it's not a good idea. It's a good idea to name your site the way you want it named when you start. So that's why I'm spending so much time on this. It's a really good plan to name it the way you want. So I'm just going to name this PSD and Jones. And there are a lot of us Joneses in PSD, but it does shorten it just a bit. And it looks like it's okay, like nobody else has named this. And so I'm going to go ahead and publish my site. And excellent. And now my site is available for the world to see, but who's going to find it, right? That's a long URL. Well, if you go to the top here, it says copy the published link. There's a little link symbol and it says copy the published link. So I'm going to copy that link. And here it is. Well, that's my math resource page. Sorry. I'm going to go back to my home page and copy the link. Try that again. There we go. My home page. So look how long that is. Sites.google.com///. That's a long URL. I'm going to copy that link. And I'm going to show you guys, take this and move it down a little bit. I'm going to show you guys that you can shorten your URLs using, there are two ways to do it that we like. We like tinyurl.com. That's one way to shorten your URL. So you can just go to tinyurl and you can paste your long link in here. And that's right click and paste. And then you can have it make one for you, or you can try to customize your tiny URL. So again, I guarantee you Mrs. Jones' 4th grade has already been taken for a custom alias. But you can, if you have a more unique name, you can probably put yours in there. You can see I use this pretty often for shortening URLs. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And another way to do it is actually at a site called bit.ly. It's bit/.ly. And if you go to the bit.ly, I've already got an account in bit.ly, and you'll create an account. And then you can create a new URL by pasting your long one here. And it will create one for you. So look what it did. It created bit.ly, and then it's /3BJIUO. So I don't know. That doesn't look very friendly to me, because is that a U? Is that an O or a 0? Those letters and numbers to me are very difficult to read. So I'm going to customize the back half of this bit.ly, and I can try PSD Jones and see if anybody has taken that, and see if it'll let me. And I'm going to make this a title to Mrs. Jones' website. So that way later I can remember my bit.ly. It'll store them over here for you. And I'm going to see if it will save that. I'm going to share it. Sorry. And it looks like it's saved. Awesome. Let me see if it will. I customized it. All right, I'm not getting an option to share, but let me see if I copy it. No, I don't want to copy that one. I customized my back half. Let's see if it'll customize it for me. All right, there you go. There's my new, I had to hit enter. So here's my new customize. Look at that. It's bit.ly/PSD Jones. That's it. That's now the URL I can send out to parents that will take them to my website. That's not even half the length of the one that we sent out earlier. So customizing your URL will really help to get that information out to your parents and to your students so that they can get to your website more easily. So if I click on this link, it should take me to my website. And let's see if I can make it go. There you go. And here is my website, the way other people will view it. And they can go to my language arts, and they can go to my math resources. Excellent. So those two URL customizers are really friendly. This long URL is not very friendly. Okay, because if you had to send that home in a text message to parents, that would be really hard to do. And you might get some of it wrong too. All right, So I've published my site, and I've added a few things to my site. And the last thing I'm going to show you is how you can share your site. Well, a couple things. Quickly, I'm going to show you have more editing in here, but this is really more for the advanced users, and I wouldn't recommend going in here unless you really want to play with how your website looks, and you really don't need to. But the last thing I'm going to do is how you can add collaborators or to share your site with somebody else. So if you and a fellow teacher want to work on a site together, you can add them here just like you do to a Google Doc. You can add your fellow teacher in, and they can help you edit this website. So you could do it together. You could do it as a grade level. You could do it as a co-teacher. There are a lot of options for you here. All right, we've covered a lot of content. I know that was a lot to know. And as Jerry mentioned earlier, this meeting is going to be repeated at 10 o'clock. So if you'd like to join Jerry's session, and she might cover a couple of different things than I covered, but you are welcome to join again, or you're welcome to watch this as the recording again tomorrow and when we post that up. And I'm going to move some of this stuff up so I can see you guys again. This is a good time to field some questions. So if you have questions, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Diana, it looks like you have a question, so please ask. Unmute yourself and ask.
Would you recommend adding a Google Classroom link into the website or no? I might have missed that.
You can't, well, the only thing you could add to Google, to this website, that's a good question. So let me show you, really the only way you could do that, and I'm going to go to my math resource page, or sorry, this one, would be to just put a link to general Google Classroom. Like you could do a link instead of this one that I designed. Let me change this link and just put in classroom.google.com. So it won't go to my Google Classroom. It will only go to the general Google Classroom, because Google Classroom will force a login. You can't go from your website to an already logged in Google Classroom.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so you could just change this, and I could call this Google Classroom. Maybe I want to link to Google Classroom in general, but they will still have to log in. Okay?
Awesome, thank you.
All right, great question. Lisa, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to know if you could show me where that button was. I was taking notes where the button is for publishing.
So in the upper right corner, there you go. It says publish. And by the way, you get some publishing options. Sorry, I'm going to move this. You can review your changes, and you can unpublish your site too. So if you publish it and you don't want it out there anymore, you can always unpublish your site as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, any other, let's see, Wendy, you have your hand up? Wendy, Loon?
Yes, hello?
Yeah, ask your
Can
question.
I have two questions. One, as far as linking to Google Classroom, could you do a link to ClassLink so that they would get to the page that has their classroom already, my classroom already
Yes.
there for them?
Well, correct. So that's a good point. So by the way, you're right. The way that kids are going to access everything you do at home, the entry point is going to be ClassLink for all of your students. Yep. The entry point is ClassLink. So yes, if you want to put a link here to ClassLink, you can. And again, I'll highlight that, and I will put, by the way, that is http:// because that's how all websites start. And it's going to be cl.palmdalesd.org. That is how you get to the Palmdale ClassLink. CL standing for ClassLink, and then the rest is easy, right? .palmdalesd.org. That's exactly how you get to the Palmdale ClassLink. So you can put that link in here, and yeah, that to me would be the recommendation, is to start your kids from ClassLink.
I had another question. When I went to put my calendar in, it did not show all of my possible calendars. It showed me some old ones. How do I get to where I have other ones. Like
Okay,
my,
great question. So, calendars can be a little tricky because we have a lot of them sometimes, right?
right.
So when I go here to my insert menu and I scroll down, I'm going to choose calendar this way because there's a nice little button in here. Look at my choices of calendars. I have a lot of calendars that people have shared with me, that I created, my choice of calendars is endless. So here is where you're going to choose the calendar you want. Now, you may have made a separate calendar that's just for your students. Maybe you have a calendar where you put your own appointments on, but maybe you've made a separate Google Calendar that's just for your class.
Right.
And that's a calendar session, which we'll do in a pop-up next week.
Okay.
But so if you want to know a little bit more about Google Calendars, we can teach you a little bit more about that as well. But here's where you get a choice of your calendars.
Okay, but my class isn't on that. When I pulled up and clicked on it, it only has like 3 or 4 things. It doesn't have all my calendars on it.
Okay.
I think maybe she's talking about Google Classroom, right? Is that what you're talking about, Wendy?
Well, I had one set up for Google Classroom, and that would be the one that I would probably put on the website, but it doesn't come up as a choice.
Correct, because your Google Classroom calendar is embedded in Google Classroom. So it's not going to be available for you to put in here. It's only in Google Classroom.
Okay, very good. So this calendar would be for more general things, maybe not specific assignments.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You could use it that way. Yeah, you could you could double your work if you wanted to and put it out here so your parents could see when the assignments are due. But you would have to then maintain that other calendar.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else with a question? If you would raise your hand or unmute yourself.
We did have a question about editing after you've published or after you've sent out the link.
You mean edit? So you can edit your website at any time. And by the way, websites get edited every day. People do that. You'll click on a site and what you saw yesterday will not be what you see the next day, right? You can continue to edit your site even after you publish. But editing the name of your site, I think it's a better idea for you to name your site before you kind of go and because editing the name of your site here, you can still do it, but I wouldn't really recommend that. Okay, so it's a good idea to name it, but remember what I said earlier, it really doesn't matter what you name it, because at the end of the day, you can go to a URL shortener like bit.ly or tiny URL, and you can pretty much name it some name that's different.
However, if you adjust your website, you put in a new document or some new information, you still perhaps just click the publish button to be sure that you're not in the draft.
So every change you make to your site, you have to click publish. Otherwise, the people on the other side will not see it. Publishing is what makes it visible to think of it like a newspaper. Every time a newspaper is published, you see new information, right? So every time you add new information, you have to click publish. Good point. Thanks, Jerry. All right, do we have any other questions?
We had one about posting recorded Zoom videos as well.
Okay, so Holly, I see you have your hand up, so let's have you ask your question.
So I don't know if you want to do this at the end. I'm fine if you want to push it back, but I'd like to know the pros and cons, especially for K-2 teachers, of using Google Classroom to post assignments and things, or put a link in Google Classroom to come to the site. Which one would be better? What do you think?
So that's a great question. So I want you to keep in mind that Google Classroom is for your students to see things. Really, your parents are going to see very little in Google Classroom unless they're sitting over the child's shoulder. So Google Classroom is for your students. A Google site, this web page, this website, is really more for your parents to see. Okay, so your students can see this as well, and you can have this be the place your students come if you want, but really think of it, to me, it's sort of like I'm keeping Google Classroom for my students, and that's the stuff I share directly with my kids, but my Google website is that space where parents and community can come to see what I'm sharing with my students. By the way, I'm going to make one big caution here for everybody, and this is for everything that you do. You cannot share pictures of your students, whether it's on a website, in your Google Classroom. You're going to have to be really careful, but that is at least a closed environment, you know, because your kids have to have a password to log in. On a Google website like this one, it is not a closed environment. It is public, and you cannot post pictures of your kids out here or share information widely here about your students unless you have written permission from your parents. And that's really an important point I want to make. This is a public space, and you have to have permission to share student pictures and information about students. Otherwise, you will be violating their privacy. So keep that in mind. Wendy, you have your hand up? Wendy, do you have a question? Okay. I think it's Frank Doncor. Is that correct? I see F Doncor. You have your mic unmuted, so I don't know if you wanted to ask a question.
No, it was just by mistake, I guess.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Sharon, you have a question. Go ahead and ask.
Okay, I'm not sure if it's something I did wrong. I linked my calendar into the new site, and when I went and looked at it, something I had scheduled for 9 a.m. on Monday is showing up in that calendar at 4 p.m. But I just went back in and looked at my calendar again, and it shows it at 9, so I'm not understanding what happened when I put it on this site.
Okay, that's an unusual thing to have happen. I'm not going to say it's foolproof, but I want you to do me a favor. I want you to publish your site, and then I want you to look at it from the published side. Remember, you have two sides. You have the editing side and the published side, or at least go to the preview, which, you know, is right here. And I want you to look at it from the preview, and I want you to tell me whether that's still viewing inappropriately or not. Because sometimes once you go to the whole publish, it might fix it.
I'm not finding my site now. Where would I'd go into sites, right?
Yes. And so if you lost the whole tab, you can always just start sites.google.com again. And,
okay, I did that.
Okay. And then you need to go to where it says new Google Sites.
Oh, okay.
And that's, yeah, it's in the new. Yeah. So that's a good point. I'm going to go ahead and navigate out of this. So I'm just going to click Sites again, just to come in from the front side again. You're going to see it looks like this, and you're going to go, where did my site go? And remember what I told you? These are the old Google Sites, and you have to click New Google Sites. I don't know why they haven't. This has been 3 years now. You think they would have, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, so you have to click New Google Sites, and then
okay, so I go into preview.
Uh-huh.
And I open the calendar, that arrow up at the top of it.
What do you mean arrow up at the top?
When you hover on the calendar, that arrow on the top right there, it's showing up.
Oh, the pop-out window.
Oh, if you want to pop it out, well, you should be able to just preview it in this small window right here.
Okay, it's still showing 4 o'clock.
How interesting. So, okay.
Well, actually, when I go into that small window, it doesn't give me the ability to go to the next week. So did I enter it incorrectly?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I want you to get out of your preview screen, which is the X down at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to go to that calendar again, and I want you to hover over it where it's kind of highlighted.
Okay.
And click on it, and then you're going to see a little gear icon. And I want you to click on the gear icon.
Okay.
And here's where we're going to go into settings. And this is where you're going to see it.
Oh, my navigation button is off.
Yeah, you have to turn the navigation button on, otherwise you can't.
Okay. Okay. So then when I go to next week, oops.
Yeah. And then you'll see, if you want it in week or month or agenda view, that's where you get your choice.
That.
And then click done.
I did. Now how do I get rid of that gear?
Oh, just click out of it.
I tried that. Okay, there it goes. Okay, so then when I go.
Now go to your preview again.
Okay, go to preview.
And you should see the navigation tools up at the top now.
I do. So now it's still showing 4 to 5.
Well, maybe it's
And I set it up for 9 to 10.
so maybe I can't explain. It's supposed to sync very nicely. So maybe you need to take that appointment out of your calendar and try to repost the appointment in your calendar and see if it comes up appropriately.
Okay, because I had set up a Google Meet and I'd already sent the link and
So
everything.
I have one more question though, because here's
Okay.
one more thing that could be happening. When you're making your appointments in your calendar, is your calendar set to another time zone?
Well, when I go onto my actual calendar, it's showing up at the right time.
Right, but when you're setting your appointments, is it set to default to another time zone? So those are just some interesting questions. Well, we can probably address that. You know, if you want to get on a call with me after here, we can talk a little bit about it. So before we leave, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today for beginning Google Sites. Again, Jerry will be hosting this session again at 10 o'clock. So if you want another round of Google Sites, you can do that. This session will be posted, the recording of the session will be posted up tomorrow morning. So we'll look forward to seeing you in those recordings if you want to take a look at those at another time. And thank you to everybody for being in this session as a participant. We'll try to stay on and answer some of your chat questions. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. And
Okay, and before you, if you're leaving, I just want to mention that I'm going to try to have a pop-up tutorial on how to use Google Sites with the iPad, because it does look different. So I'm going to do some more research into that. Maybe on Friday we'll have a training on that, because I've been kind of struggling while Chris has been presenting with my iPad, and I want you to be able to have that option if you're only using a teacher iPad.
right, and thanks for that, Jerry, because it does look very different on an iPad. I do understand that. So and that would be great if we could have more information about, you know, what it looks like from the iPad view. So thank you so much for offering that. Okay. All right, everybody. So thank you so much for coming into our class today. And you can go ahead and leave the session. If there are people who still have questions or would like their questions answered, I'm scrolling through this long list of chats now. So thanks to Jerry for being our moderator today and looking through our chat sessions. And,
Christine, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Just to clarify from what you briefly mentioned today, are we supposed to be, we are recommended to use Zoom and not the Google Hangouts, correct?
And yes, so I explained a little bit in my email yesterday, but I'll explain again why. So when you create a Google Meet, a meeting, it generates a code that the kids can use over and over and over again to keep getting back into that session, because it does not end the session. We have asked Google to fix that, and they fixed a couple of other things for us. Like, it used to be when you got into Google Meet, anybody who was in the session could mute anybody else. And by the way, anybody else who got in the session could actually boot anybody else out of the session, which became a problem, because if you were the teacher and you're trying to have a Google Meet and your kids kicked you out of the session, that was not a good thing. So they fixed those two things, but they still have not fixed the problem, which is when I end a Google meeting, you'll see a screen that comes up that says, go to your home screen or rejoin the meeting. And the kids can leave that up for as long as they want, and they can click rejoin the meeting, and they can join each other anytime they want in that space. So it's creating a virtual space for kids to meet without you being there. And that is a problem. Whereas with Zoom, when I am the moderator of this meeting, so as soon as I click end meeting, it ends for everybody. So that's it. Nobody can come into this meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So I apologize. I know Google Meet is super easy to use, and it's super fun, and there are good parts about it, but those are our concerns about using Google Meet. All right.
Chris, I just have one thing.
Yeah.
I was able to follow along on my iPad as I'm watching the video, and it seemed the same strokes as you were doing.
Nice. Excellent.
And I accidentally published it.
Oh, your site?
Yes.
Okay, it's okay. So when you see the publish button to the upper right, go to the down arrow and choose unpublish.
Okay, got it. I'll go
There
do
you
that.
go. Yeah, if you
Okay,
don't want,
thanks.
yeah, you can take it down, or you can even delete it if you want. That's fine. But keep in mind, so I don't mind that my site is published, and I'll tell you why, because nobody's going to find it. There are billions of websites out there. And I know nobody's going to find it in the second that I published it. So I'm not that concerned about it being published. So it'll be okay. I promise you.
Thank you. It was a good session.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Any other questions before we end the meeting?